Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to speak a little bit about best practices for well plugging in densely populated environments and highlight some of what we've found to be effective strategies for mitigating risk and impact through a case study. I should say as well, I'm going to be really brief on the topics here. There's a 3-year project that I'm trying to summarize into about 10 minutes for you folks. But if this is an interesting topic, I'll be around for the next couple of days. Would love to talk to you about it in person over coffee or something like that. A little bit about myself. As Susan mentioned, my name is Derry. I'm with 360 Engineering Environmental Consulting. I've been working on plug-in abandonment projects for a better part of a decade. And I'm the director of engineering at the company. A little bit about 360. We're an engineering environmental consulting firm, and some of the project areas that we're working in highlighted on the right here screen. So most of Canada, and then recently been working on some projects in the US. Our team's plugged around 6,000 wells in those jurisdictions. Our services, core services are listed there, but primarily contract management for prime contractor projects, engineering services for well plugging permitting, operations management, well site supervision. Our real forte is in wellbore integrity repair. That's where we focus a lot of our efforts. So yeah, going back to the kind of the topic that we're looking at today, the problem. Got some photos here showing some of the projects that we've been working on of late. Same general problems that you'll find with most orphan wells, lack of data, not necessarily even knowing if the wells exist or don't, where are they located. In the case study, we're looking at a little bit more on the subsurface contamination element that we had to work around and mitigate risk with that, and then also risk to human health and life, which is I'll show in future slides here, but you can see on the photos right around a lot of people. One of them is a bit of a game of where's Waldo. You can see a pump jack in front of those trees, but you can't really even see where the wells are located in some instances, but they could be right near a home or a business. So the case study that I'd mentioned is a project that we worked on in Wheatley, Ontario. That's an actual photo of at the time of the ignition of the building that was contaminated with gas from a legacy well that was in that city block. You can see that some of the photos of the carnage and the after impacts. So kind of brief history. The well exploded or caused a gas explosion in 2021. That resulted in an evacuation of approximately 20% of the town. The initial discovery was multiple wells, abandoned water wells in close proximity to the source well that they identified, which was in fact a water well. A monitoring well was installed to get data from the aquifer that was contaminated. And as I'd mentioned, it was about 3 years of monitoring and planning for remediation. 360 got involved at the tail end of the program in 2024. We were assigned the task of removing all concrete from the site. The site was more or less leveled from the explosion, and so we were tasked with removing all of the concrete, so basements and foundations from the site. And the reason why that was assigned to us was because there was risk of unknown wells being located under those slabs, and so they wanted preparation to deal with gas or methane or hydrogen sulfide gas in the event that peeling back those foundations would result in a health and safety risk to the public. So kind of going to some of the solution part here. Really with the solution, it's kind of a risk mitigation and then minimizing impact. We found, kind of like Ron mentioned, stakeholder engagement was really key for us to be successful in the project. That was talking to community groups, the emergency responders, others that have been involved in the project for a long period of time. Historical research was critical. We had to understand the plugging practices at the time to be prepared for what we might find under some of those foundations. And some of that was plugging the walls with drill cuttings. Some was lead plugs or wood plugs. We were guessing as to what we were looking for, so we had to have a really good understanding of the entirety of what could be located under those foundations. Building out subsurface models, so that's really looking at the geological conditions and what others had discovered with their drilling operations in the past. Creating an ERP that was working with first responders to really put together a turnkey action plan in the event of something going really sideways. So even going through data acquisition to understand what a leak could potentially look like, doing H2S modeling on that, as well as SO2 in case we had to flare, and then building out different areas of concern that we would have to mitigate risk in the event of a release. So then kind of going on to mitigating the impact. I mean, ultimately you want to get in there, do the job, and never have to come back. That's the best way to mitigate your impact. The way that we worked through that process was to build out decision trees that we felt were most likely scenarios for what we would encounter. So with those decision trees, we could build out the equipment and personnel that we really needed to operate on and repair those leakage paths, whether that was wood casing or the different types of plugging materials that could be in the well. Engaging with local expertise was really critical there as well. Service companies in the area that we were working in were almost non-existent, and so there were a couple of local experts that we could ask them questions about what folks would do in that area in the past. Kind of, as I mentioned, building that anticipated, the different anticipated scenarios. And when we talk about doing it right, from a stakeholder engagement perspective, there was a real need to understand the root cause of the problem. And so obtaining the data while we had that opportunity was really, really important. So yeah, going through the results, ultimately there was numerous wells that we found underneath the concrete foundations. One believed to be a legacy gas well that had actually contributed to the flow to surface on the water well that was originally the source of the issues and of this explosion. But when we re-entered that legacy gas well, we were able to obtain a bunch of data that did point towards it being the source. There was other data that we were using initially to even determine that it was in close proximity to the gas well or to the water well that resulted in the explosion. But kind of the story of success pointing to no release of methane or H2S off-site. That was a big win for our team. No injuries to personnel, also big. And preliminary results, which are all publicly available, show that we were successful in reducing and pretty well eliminating emissions from the entire work site. So some of the things that we learned in projects like this, and it's been talked about by others as well, or any plugging project for that matter, it can appear from the surface that trying to do the project for as low cost as possible is the best pathway. What we found is that we needed more staff than we would normally put onto a project, and that was because of stakeholder engagement. Is because of other factors there as well, the additional risk to human health and life. So being prepared for that is worthwhile. Not being afraid to ask questions. Being that it's a new area for us working in, we kind of had one opportunity to ask those questions before we were going to be putting people in harm's way. Over communication being better than under communication. Sometimes that means saying the same things seemingly 100 times to the group that you're working with, but may be the only way to really make sure that everybody is on the same page and has their goals aligned to the project goals. And then assuming that all stakeholders have the ability to contribute to success, I think is something that as engineering groups we can often overlook, but there are many opportunities for folks that are outside of the standard oil and gas engineering community that can help with making sure that the project's successful.